Fucking no, bitch. Hey, got all this paper, I don't go to class. Shorty look good with that double stuffed ass. Shoe made a gator, so I'll see you later. Your boy made the fade, all your shit is trash. She only a 5 in her face, so her head get a bag in my
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing something a bit different. We are going to be reading a horror story, and I'm thinking about maybe turning this horror series into a series. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Today we're going to be reading a story called Knocks on the Damned Knocker by user Scare in a Box on r/horror stories. Let's go. The sun was at its highest, and the sound of laughing teenagers and Karens echoed throughout the hall. I was in the home accessories section. I had no idea how I got there, but I could vividly remember the whispers that came from this direction. The whispers only got louder as I got to the deepest part of the section. I saw it, the bronze dragon. I lifted it from the shelf. It was an antique door knocker. The whispers became more audible, but I still couldn't make out what it was saying. It was probably all in my head. I was just delusional. I had ran my thumbs on each dragon head. They were all well sculpted to perfection. I turned it around and saw a name written faintly. I needed my reading glasses to see properly. Luckily, I brought them along because I'm long-sighted. I brought them out of their house and put them on. I look around, and most of the things became slightly clearer. Diablo 1918, I said aloud. I continued to study the antique to find something else, but that was it. It must have belonged to a member of the elite group back then. Beautiful, isn't it? A masculine voice said behind me, and I gasped. I did not realize I had company. Yes, it's intriguing, I said to the man. He looked wary, and he had pretty visible lines. His eyes were bloodshot and his skin was pale. He looked bizarre. The owner was a man of his word, he added as he stared down at it. You know the owner? I said, putting my interest in the man. We all know the Diablo, he said before a brief pause. Make sure you make it out alive, he added before he smiled. Thanks, I replied awkwardly. He turned around and walked a few steps before he turned back and looked at me. Happy Halloween, Doctor, he said before he walked off out of the section. What was all that fuss about? And how did he know I am a doctor? Was he one of my patients? I shook the thoughts of the man out of my head. I gave the antique a brief look before I dropped it back where it belonged. I continued with my shopping, and I got everything I needed in the cart. It was time to check out. I gave the store cashier the basket so he could check it out. Sir, $49.99. We also offer packaging for the antique, the cashier replied. Antique? I asked confusedly. Yes, or did you get one? He asked. I frowned my face as I saw the bronze medal sticking out of the bag. I got one. It just slipped through my mind. I don't need packaging. It's for me, I said before I handed him my card. We finished transactions, and I stepped out of the store. I guess a doorbell and a knocker wouldn't hurt, I said aloud before I got into my car. I paid the parking fees and zoomed out of the driveway. Memories of the man from earlier floated back in my head, and I frowned. How did he know me? As I drove, the cars became scanty. I lived in one of the quietest and most mysterious neighborhoods in Illinois. After 10 minutes, I arrived in my front yard. I got down with the groceries and grabbed the keys from the back seat. I walked towards the pathway and unlocked the door to my house. "Hey, doctor," I heard Jonathan, my neighbor from across the street, call me. I turned around and smiled at him. "Hello, Jonathan," I replied. "Why aren't you at work?" he asked before he placed one of his hands on his waist. "Halloween. We barely had any patients. Isn't it a day for crazy people?" I gave a grim smile. I was a psychiatrist, so he would get the joke. He laughed aloud and brushed the little tear that escaped from his eye. "How hilarious, Greg," he said. A female voice called him, and he raised by at me before he answered the girl. I barely had friends. I only ever spoke to Jonathan or Michael, close to me. Before I went, I took the antique and placed it on my door. I checked the time. It was already 3 in the afternoon. I took too long in the supermarket. I walked in with the groceries and placed them down in the kitchen. Everything felt off and odd today. I warmed myself a little cold pizza while I freshened my toilet. I was right on time when the oven dinged loudly. I grabbed it and headed for the couch. I could catch up with a little documentary. The last one I watched was about an otaku killer. I should continue it. 5 minutes into the program, I had finished 2 slices of pizza. I heard a light sound at the door. It was probably Jonathan. "Coming," I answered as I rushed to the door. I opened the door and met no one. I resumed watching my documentary. Another light knock was placed, and I checked who it was, but nobody. Somebody was probably pranking me because I got a door knocker. This time, I only moved back. The knock resumed, and this time it had only become intense and loud. I tiptoed to the door and opened it with the usual "ah," but I was utterly disappointed. No one was at the door. The person was a good prankster. I resumed my documentary and ignored the knocks at the door. The person was going to get tired eventually. I checked the time again and realized it was already 5 in the evening. I continued to binge watch. I had no idea when I had fallen asleep. I was woken by the blasting music from my phone. It was 11 at the night. Jonathan was the caller. "Why aren't you at this party?" he yelled from the other side. The music was loud, but I could understand what he was saying. I looked out the window and saw different people dressed in scary costumes and cosplay. "I was not invited," I replied softly. "Get your..." He didn't finish his sentence before the line went dead. My eyes were still on the window. I approached it to get a closer view. I felt cold air brush the back of my neck. I ignored it. One of the windows was probably open again. I studied the guests and their makeup. They looked pretty real. As I continued to stare, one of them looked at me. She had white eyes and her skin was eaten up. Talking about top-notch makeup. She pointed her finger toward me. I heard light knocks from outside, and I was fazed by such good timing. They deserved an Oscar. She placed her left thumb on the back of her neck and moved it from left to right before she muttered something. For my years of soundless talk, she was saying, "You are next." I felt cold air creeping from my back again, and I frowned my face. This was a joke. The whispers were loud and some of them were words. "Run, doctor." So, please tell me how you liked this story and any tips. I'm very open to suggestions. Um, and I would just love it if you guys could give me some ideas for the future. And always remember, like, subscribe, share this video with family and friends, and have a nice rest of your day or night wherever you are. Bye.